we have Gianmarco Soresi.
Hello.
How did I do?
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up Maryland, Potomac, Maryland.
Okay.
Not in Italy? Darn it.
I know. I'm much more Jewish than I am Italian, just to get that out there.
So what? So Dad was Italian?
Dad's like a little Italian.
Okay.
Like a little. And Mom's just Jewish. And they gave me this name. And when my dad raised me, he acted like I was 100% Italian.
Oh.
And I did, you know, the DNA. And it's I guess in like the 1930s, my great-grandpa Luigi, his real name, my great-grandpa Luigi, and my great-grandma Donkey Kong, they immigrated here. The little island of Nintendo.
Nintendo.
For a second, you thought it was real. You're like, oh, you're Sicily, yes.
So would they call you like Giancarlo Sorasi?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, my dad, apparently my dad, he was like, he was a fighter. He would, you know, punch people, and they called him Crazy Soresi.
Oh.
And that's how I know I'm different, because when I was in high school, people just called me Soresi, so gazy.
Oh.
That's what I got.
See, kids are so nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. But I would just, did anyone early on suggest that you change your name?
I had a manager in the beginning who said you need to change it to something more Jewish.
Oh.
And they were like, we're going to get you meetings with network heads, and you're going to walk in, they're going to expect Gianmarco, and you're going to be like, I'm Gianmarco. And I said no. And I'm glad I said no, because they got me none of those meetings. Give me the meetings first, and then we'll talk about the name change. We're not going to go the other way.
Yeah, right?
So,
Yeah. So you're a tall, thin fellow.
thank you.
Now, were you an athlete, and did you play basketball?
No. I mean, I did a little basketball, and I still remember my high school basketball coach. He always used to tell me, "You miss 100% of the shots you take." But no, I was terrible at sports. I was more of a theater kid.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah?
Yeah. What was your favorite role?
Oh, Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, that's fantastic. I always wanted to play Orin Scrivello.
Oh, you'd be a great Orange.
Perhaps we could have some sort of theater thing.
Yeah, I think if both our lives take a terrible turn of events, we could definitely do a production of Little Shop of
Like a
Horrors.
Paducah Community Theater or something.
Now, our guest is Gianmarco Soresi. On the road, by the way, he's got a bunch of other gigs coming up. I mentioned his Helium gigs. He's also going to be, and a friend of mine was just telling me, his favorite club in the country coming up in late November, Comedy Off-Broadway in Lexington, Kentucky, coming up Friday the 29th of November, and the 30th for some great live shows in beautiful Lexington, Kentucky. You're also going to be in Addison, Texas, New York, Chicago, a lot of gigs coming up for you, and you'll be at home in November 21st in Washington, D.C., your old home, but you live in New York now.
I live in New York now.
You like the city? Are you in Manhattan, Brooklyn? Where are you?
I was in Harlem for a very long time, and I've been on the Lower East Side for like 4 years now. So I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people talk crap about New York around the country. Sometimes we're kind of like I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I was in this taxi, and he asked me where I was from. I said New York. And I mean, he gasped so loud it almost startled the horse. And he was like, I hear New York is filled with crime. And I was like, you know what I've heard about Chattanooga? Nothing. When my agent said I had a gig in Chattanooga, I Googled what country is Chattanooga in, and then I fired my agent.
Closer?
Hey, Gianmarco. Do you like to be your close friends? Do they call you? I don't know, JM or John or Gianmarco? Do they have to do the whole thing?
I don't think we're there yet in our relationship.
No, I'm sure. I mean, it's kind of a handful.
I know, but if I give an inch, I'll never get my name back.
Yeah.
So I went through the phases. Like, you know, in high school I was G, college GM, but then I learned if I do it, then I'll never get it back. So.
Yeah.
My father and my girlfriend now will call me Gianni sometimes. Gianni.
Okay.
Like Gianni Versace.
Oh.
So, but they're the only. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. That's so you know who's.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll call you.
So you can't call him that.
I'm just curious. I was kind of wondering.
Not unless you buy him dinner first.
Okay. Now, you a couple questions. Don't be. Can you drive a car?
I cannot. I have a license. which is not good because I got it in. I mean, it truly is a failure of the system. Having a license, it means that I parallel parked once in 2004 or something. It's insane that I have a license still.
Yeah, the reason I ask, because I went to college in New York City, and a lot of my buddies there, they couldn't drive or swim. Because they grew up in New York City. Can you swim?
I can swim, but because I grew up in Maryland, I should be able to drive. Don't get this is not a New York thing. This is I had a girlfriend in high school, and she drove. She would drive me places, and then she broke. Is nothing worse than being dumped and then needing to ask your ex for a ride home.
Wow. Rare, but
Brutal.
yeah. Gianmarco Soresi is also a podcaster.
Yes.
And I love the description of your podcast. A lifelong cynic, Gianmarco interviews people more famous than him about all the downsides of their lives.
I like it.
This sounds really familiar. If you are looking on the bright side of life, this is not for you. It's called The Downside with Gianmarco Soresi. This sounds great. We'll stick a link up to this. It sounds like fun.
Thank you, yeah.
Sounds great. And you're also an actor. We didn't really talk much about that, but
I know no one's talking about it these days.
you were just. You said you just did something. I didn't. What was it again?
Well, I had an audition many years ago for Game of Thrones, and I remember I walked in the room. I was ready to go, and the director said to me, "First, we need to see you in your underwear." Which is not what I was expecting. So I put my underwear back on. I've been an actor. I mean, longer than I've been a comedian. I've shared the stage with some people who have gone on to become huge real estate agents. I had one small part in Law and Order. I played Ice-T's waiter.
Oh,
And to prepare for the role, I actually became a waiter for 12 years.
oh, you're a method.
Yeah, very method. I'm the Daniel Day-Lewis of Applebee's.
That is great. Don't forget, I'm the Comedy Off Broadway, November 29th and 30th. It's going to be Gianmarco's at that great venue, Comedy Off Broadway.
After Thanksgiving. Good.
Lots
good
of other
party.
stops. You're going to the home front, Washington, D.C., coming up in late November. Now, will your family come see you?
It depends. They'll definitely say that they're coming.
Now, is there any aspects of your performance that might be awkward to say in front of your parents?
Yeah, but I do it anyway. I feel like it's my right to say whatever I want about my family, given that I had to be in that home for so long. But I talk a lot about my family because it's my parents. They got divorced when I was 7 days old.
Wow.
So, like most kids, my first word was mama, but my next 5 were told me to tell you. You know, I talk a lot because they fought. My parents, they blamed each other for everything. Like, even if I did something wrong. Like, if I knocked over a glass of milk, my dad, he wouldn't say, "You're clumsy." He'd say, "You have your mom's original nose."
Oh, that is so funny. And well, you don't have to worry about your grandparents coming, except the one.
Oh my God.
Sure. I mean, it's. I never met my dad's dad, which is a tradition I hope to continue with my son.
So funny. I'm
Thank you.
so happy that you stopped by. Please come by again. This is the Bob and Tom Show.